So bear with me for a second and we will start. Hello there, Shah. Nice to see you.
Hey, nice to see you too. Hey, everybody.
Would you like to introduce yourself to the rest of the folks, Shah? Just to for them to have context.
For sure. My name is Shachar. I live in Jerusalem. I have 2 kids. I'm a researcher in DAOstack. I work nowadays mainly around like things that relate to collective sense making and collective attention, things in that area. I'm working on a specific project, which right now it is called Common Sense, which is something that is independent of DAOstack, and I'm really, me and my colleague Ronen Tamari, we really tried to bring it forth and perhaps even collaborate with the TEC, and I'm in contact about that with Edward. And I'm here to say hi and get to know everyone and just see your workflow. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Shah. So for today, we usually have an icebreaker question, Shah. So for today, the question is, complete the sentence. I wish everyone could blank and why. So on my case, I will start, and I wish everyone could, for once, go to the Caribbean, because I'm from the Caribbean, and I feel like there is something in the way the people behave, the people moves, the food, everything. It's just a whole different experience. So I wish everyone could go through that, and I will pass it on to Gideon.
Thanks, Edu. I don't know. I'll just go with the first thing that popped into my head, which is I wish everyone could just get past these culture wars. Yeah. I will pass it on to LBS.
LBS, if you're talking, you are muted. Will you mind getting to pass it to someone else?
Sure. Tam, pass it on to you.
I wish everyone could. I mean, I don't know. It's like find complete joy in their life. I think that's what I wish everyone could do. Like just be joyful. Find joy. And why? Because I think joyful people create pleasant environments. This is the best I can do on such short notice. It's nice to be around joyful people, and I like to be around joyful people. So I think that we can probably solve a lot of the world's problems with more joy and less other things. I'll pass back to you, Eduardo. I don't know who hasn't gone yet.
No problem. LBS, would you like to give it a try? Maybe you are still having issues with the mic, so I will pass it on to Jason.
Yeah, this question stumped me for a second too. My initial thought was, I don't feel like I've lived long enough to know enough about enough people to make a statement that might apply to everyone. And I don't know why I think that. That seems strange because it could be something very simple, but that was my initial thought. The second one was a Coke and a smile, and could kind of go with the happy vibe. Absolutely. If people could do a simple thing like share a soda or a glass of water and a smile more often, it probably would make a great difference for all of us. So I'll go with that. Back to you, Edu.
Okay, Jason, how about you, Bill 100?
Thank you, Edu. Well, yeah, it's a good question. I was also taking my time to think about it. I think I wish everyone could actually do what they like, what they're passionate about, and not what they need to do in order to, let's say, survive. So I would say, like, I wish everyone could actually live and not just survive. And why? Because, well, yes, because I think that's what humans should do, right? Enjoy life and live it the way they want them to live it. So yeah, I'll just pass it to Sha.
Yeah, my initial thought was chill. Yeah, like I had a very stressful day, and like a lot of traffic jams and stuff like that. But so I guess like if everyone could just chill for one moment, everyone will be much happier about a lot of stuff. But yeah, my second thought was after Tam said it's like if you know the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the book, and there's this this like a empathy canon. You know this concept. When the this you shoot someone and he immediately feels your emotions, like he feels the same as you. It's like a so I guess a lot of things would be nicer if we had such a canon.
Thank you for sharing that, Shao. So let's jump into this. LDS was in a public space, so I think that has affected their internet connection. So going back to the agenda, so we have been going back and forth with our our funding proposal for the next quarter. And the latest thing we did on yesterday with Gideon was to provide certain priorities to the services that we mentioned here. If you're seeing the screen, there are things that are being labeled as red because those are things we haven't achieved, and those were things that were not put on the epic that we created on SendHub. And then we play the game of assigning a number of importance to each of these issues to sort of understand which one were priorities. So 1 meaning the most important one, and then 2 meaning sort of important, and then 3 it could wait or it could be for later. And then we went through the exercise to sort of also have a very micro vision of it, like 1.5 meaning this is the fifth action important within the number 1 action to do. So we did that, and what I did today was to create the issues for each of these tasks. So we have one of a bigger epic now here, and then I added the number and the importance to the title of the epic. Probably this is not the best way to manage the setup, but that's just in the short notice what I could accomplish. Hello, Libby. Hello, Vi. Hello, Nate. Nice to see you here. I will just, since you just joined, I will interrupt myself for a second, and we had an opening question, and I will just briefly pass it to you so you can answer the opening question, which was complete the sentence, I wish everyone could, and why. And I will pass it on to Libby.
Wish everyone could. I wish everyone could dance once a day. Now pass to you, Tim.
Sure, you went. So back to you, Nate, maybe.
Ooh. I wish everyone could find passion and purpose in their life.
There you go. And how about you, Vi? If you're speaking, Vi, we cannot hear you. Vi? Oh, there you go.
Yeah. I wish that everyone's lives become a little bit easier. Yeah, I don't know. I find adulting quite hard, and I feel like it would be easier if a lot of people had things a lot easier. So yeah, that's.
Thank you, bye. So, as we were talking about Livy, Nate, and Vi, we did a reorganizing a little bit of the funding proposal. So we are going to do today our last checking on the funding proposal before submitting to the forum for advice process, and then eventually to conviction voting. The idea is that we part of the things that we claim we are going to do for the next quarter with this funding proposal, we provided a rate of importance, and then we create Senhub issues within the epic for this quarter, and then it has all the information it needs to have. A lot of issues are unassigned, mainly because they're open for anyone who is willing to take this. And Gideon, do you have? Am I missing something? Is there something else you would like to add to this?
No, not really, except that I have to run for just a second because I've got some bread. I'll be right back.
Go ahead. So basically, the summarize of this process that we did with Gideon was to understand that the first part that we should be able to accomplish is to tweak the bots that we have already, and then do basic things like, for example, in this case, have a checklist for onboarding logistics, like to have your place account set up, do a checking of that, and so on. Also, the other aspect that and it's nice to see you here, Livy, which is the process of sort of matching the areas of interest within a working group, and then also do that with the token engineering flower. And the other thing that we also talked about was to have these clear, easy to accomplish tasks for new contributors at a community. The idea would be that, and I made this suggestion on the issue that belongs to this, which is the idea of, on the community call, maybe the stewards can say which are things that they need help or support with, so we can just basically, the guides will be able to connect better newcomers with things that are open. And then the other thing that we label as very important is to improve the community-wide communication processes to ease the outreach for the outreach burden. So this is a little bit of this. Besides that, the funding proposal hasn't changed much. We did some changes only left on the roles. Like, we took out the working coordination lead role, temporarily at least. I don't know, time if something has changed, but I think we have take that out and take out one guide. So it will be only one guide, and it will be only one community builder. And we have taken down the amount of hours expected for many of the roles, except for the guide one. So I will open the floor if anyone has any question regarding this funding proposal before we move on. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. No one has a question. Bye. So this will go basically to a forum for advice process. The next thing we have on the agenda is Jason feedback from the audit. Jason, would you like to explain a little bit and present what you did?
Absolutely. So based on last week's Communitas meeting, there were some questions around the various places where we might have text, links, dates and times for meetings and other calls. And to determine whether or not that was current, there were, places where we might need to, update information. So what I've done, thank you for sharing that. So the first one is the pinned messages. So I understand that the pinned messages in each of the channels, there are many or several, at least for some channels. I was looking at what would be considered maybe like the header one, the oldest one that seemed to have the most general information about the working group or the channel. And there were a number of places where I found some things, and Gideon had commented on them as well, where we have some questions. There might be incorrect dates and times. There might be a link to somewhere that the information has not aged well with the changes that have actually occurred since. So there's some questions as to whether or not people are being exposed to this information and whether that, is helping them or not. Some of it, seems relatively straightforward. Some of the dates and times need to change, and That's probably an ongoing maintenance issue. So I think that that's sort of an indicator of the types of things then we're thinking about, which is where are the critical areas that we need to keep this information up to date, perhaps because of newcomer calls and that sort of thing, needing to be accurate. I did the same type of thing in the header text for each of the channels. So there is a separate document for that as well. And similar situation, just looking at how does this information compare to other information that might be available for the same channel or the same group? Are there inaccuracies? Are there questions around it? So there's likewise comments and perhaps things in this document that would be looked at. There was a third document that I added that was from some work at the end of the week. And that is actually starting to look at the overlap. So where do we have the same information in multiple places? And are there questions that we have about that? Perhaps it's not the same. Some of it's aged, some of it hasn't. So that kind of raises like, where are there synchronization issues, but where are there also a curation issue? A post may just need to be aged off, appropriately so for something that's more generic and more fitting of the current situation. So at this point, I think there's plenty of information to look at in here. And I think folks that have kind of followed what I'm saying have a sense that there's all kinds of gems in here that we can go after and decide, how to prioritize and do. And I think any questions and community support around that is really the rest of the conversation, is where do people quickly identify, we need to act on some of these things. And then where do some of these things need to go in a backlog, where we can take a look at it as an ongoing concern. So with that, I will open it back up to anybody else.
I have a few questions. In the header section, do you, like, for example, this one's praise or feedback, is this something that you think needs to be corrected, or because I don't see any notes, so I don't understand if the ones that you pick are just because they have something wrong or because you feel they could be improved.
Yeah, let me take a quick look because there should be something for comments, and let me see. I'm refreshing the document in my so at the very top, the orientation one, that date and time is incorrect. That's the one comment that I do see. That must mean I didn't find any other things that immediately jumped out at me here. I think the only issue would be is there synchronization between this and other information of its type in another place, either pin messages or elsewhere. So that's probably why, documenting it was the only the outcome from this particular document, I think.
Okay. I think the other thing that you mentioned regarding synchronization, it's interesting, is to like see if the description of the working group it's up to date, or if the description fits the same on the website, or this kind of stuff. And in the other one, in the pin message review, there's a lot of things to do. There is a bunch of outdated messages that in general for all channels that needs to be updated. So that's something that I guess so I will open the floor and just, I don't know if anyone wants to comment something, wants to take on this task, or what do you suggest we do next, Jason? 5, 4, 3. Yeah, go ahead.
So one thing we could do is, since there's talk of synchronization, is that there's a way where we can link this to like a Notion sheet or a spreadsheet, and then we have like a bot keep it up to date. But then again, it's the same thing. Like, you'd have to maintain it somewhere. And since I think we're not using the same data on the website and in here, so we can afford to not synchronize it and just ensure that someone keeps it up to date inside the Discord. My guess is that maybe I don't know if the guides have access to do this. Maybe they should. And we can do that, or maybe if someone volunteers to maintain this, they just update it whenever we decide. We could do that. Or another approach would be like, whenever we want to change it, we just announce it in the channel, in the Communitas channel, and whoever has access to edit those descriptions can do it.
Yeah.
I have a question, if I may.
Yeah, of course.
What kind of like content are you referring to? Like, is it events or like just the pin messages or what?
So
To-
we are checking on two things. The first one was to do a sort of a soft audit on the pin messages of the channels, and then the second one was the description that it's on every channel. If you click on next to the title, usually it's a text box that pops out and have a description, and some of them are outdated and some of them are not linked to the description that we have of the same thing somewhere else. Can you explain a little bit about this spreadsheet, Jason? I'm sharing on the screen the information.
Absolutely. So this really, as has been mentioned, this is sort of gives you a vision of the future task, which is where do I have the same information in different places? Because I need it there. I need it in Gitbook. I need it on a welcome page somewhere. I need it in a Discord message. So we're always going to have this problem. This is just starting to show the picture of different classes of information that we have in several different platforms. And then I'm highlighting with a couple of different places some of the challenges. Like there's a lot of overlapping information, but it's also not the same either. So you see that it's sourced from different places. So, you know, we have a couple of interesting potential challenges with how we would go about it because of that truth in it. And then I think ultimately the biggest thing is in column G, where it's listed that dates and times are incorrect. For me, I think this was the biggest call to action for me, which was I feel like this needs to get addressed because it's generally the orientation call, which means people might be waiting for a call to happen on the wrong day and time. And we may or not necessarily know it, although actually we did find that out last week that did actually happen to somebody. So I think they must have seen the Wednesday rather than the Thursday. After that, the question really comes down to a commitment was made to create the information in the first place, but what's the long-term stewardship of the information? Where does that come out of as a function? So I don't have a great answer for that, except that I feel like that solution is going to wander into this territory of inventorying the information, knowing what you have, where you have it, a manual process to keep it up to date until that doesn't work the right way, perhaps, and then an automated solution longer term if that's what the group were to decide. So I think that's a bigger conversation that happens after we fix some dates and times and reduce the exposure that we have to inaccurate information being right in front of newcomers pretty much immediately when they enter. After that, I think it's prioritization of the remaining changes and how we link it all together and how we curate it long term.
Just kidding.
Can I just add two things? One, first of all, Jason, this is awesome. I mean, I think it's really important because, yeah, we just don't want to be sending people to the wrong places or like giving them bad information. One thing that I remember a long time ago sitting on an airplane for a long airplane ride with this right next to this developer, and he shared this core idea with me that I carried with me. He's like, when it comes to information, there's one of the most important things to remember is that this idea of God's truth. It's like you can have replication of information in lots of places, but there always needs to be one place which is God's truth. Like that is the actual truth of whatever this idea is, whatever that information is. In this place, that this is the most up-to-date and latest truth on this, whatever this is. You can replicate it in other places, but here's where it actually resides. And I think it would be useful, like in a spreadsheet like that, to kind of like have that same notion, so that when it comes to like the description of the working group, there's like one place that the working group steward or whoever it is maintaining that always goes and maintains the accurate representation of whatever that descriptor is, like description of the working group, in that one place. And then anybody can come and copy from there and know that that's the actual thing. So in your spreadsheet, Jason, I think it'd be cool to just say for each one of these kinds of things, like it's like a marker, like a color or something like that says like, this is the place for this piece of information where it resides, and we always know to go to this place. This is the reference, right? And then anybody can come in and just copy that. Something like that would be, I think, useful. Modularity is our friend when it comes to keeping data like this up to date.
Absolutely. So I think there are two things that I can offer. First, I would love to help coordinate the updating of the wrong dates and times across the platform. So between now and a week or 2 weeks out, I would love to help make sure that we get that done. Secondly, I do have some ideas about this spreadsheet that would help organize it a little better. And then we could use other types of things like a color as an indicator for this is the current most up-to-date source of this information that which may begin to develop our library of where the truthful information is. And then that creates actions of how do we spread this across all of the places where we actually put that out there, which comes back to that conversation of what we find about how is that actually done? What are the right choices in being able to do that? So I can offer those two things for sure to help continue to add structure to this conversation going forward and see what actions come out of it.
Nate, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, so I really appreciate that, Jason. I think that it's really awesome and you put that together. I don't know, I did see that what was missing from that was if you look at the Gitbook page, there's a text source link at the top. That was my initial attempt at doing this, was that the Gitbook handbook would be void of any type of dynamic information that would change at any point in time, and that the TEC source page would be dedicated to the working groups and have them update their times and all of those things that may continually change, the documents that they're using, the archived documents they're no longer using. However, getting people to maintain that on their own is very difficult. And I don't know if we can reincorporate that into the workflows of the working groups to make sure that they have those pages maintained and that they have up-to-date documents available for people to catch up on the works that's going on.
So shall we take the Gitbook, what Nate mentioned as the source of truth? Is that the suggestion? Just by.
Yeah, that does sound interesting, like an interesting solution. But I personally believe like it would be really great if we can have some kind of structured schema for the data. So, for example, a spreadsheet is more structured than the text that you have on like a Gitbook or a blog. So, my personal suggestion would be like we use a platform like Notion. It's like a hybrid spreadsheet, and I would really say that is that the UI it provides allows for really neat like attributes related to documents. So I believe that they will be like easy to edit and easy to parse. So for example, we can have a Kanban board or a normal just display board that is filled with that is filled with working group names and their properties, and whenever someone clicks on that, the associated attribute are the weekly meeting timings and other kinds of data. And the best part about that it would be that this data would be this data can be passed easily without any issues, and it can be used by automated tools if we want some kind of setup for that sorts of things in future. And if we're down for such a solution, I'd be happy to collaborate with Jason on this.
How are access rights managed in that Vi? In Notion?
Yeah, so mainly what we'd want to do is like just create a private Notion and then invite people onto there. Mostly I think it would be stewards and maybe other people that have access to that. I'm slightly unsure about like if we need teams, because like normal Notion documents also allow you to just invite any number of people you want to be able to edit that document. So it should be pretty straightforward, I believe.
Can I ask, is there like is that what you describe? It's possible just in the same, for example, the same spreadsheet here in Google Docs, just coordinate better who has access to it, or it's only Notion.
Yeah, we can do a spreadsheet too. It's just that Notion provides like views that make the UI easier to use. So it's really straightforward, and it just takes you less time as compared to a spreadsheet, because like in a spreadsheet you have to scroll, find your column where your working group is, and then you have to enter text by selecting all of the cells. In Notion it's more like just clicking on the option, so I believe that can be slightly faster, but yeah, we can use a spreadsheet.
I have a suggestion, like how about Airtable? Like you can have a Airtable that has views, like you can share specific views of Airtable, which looks very nice, without the ability to edit them. In that sense,
Yeah.
that like the stewards or whoever is in charge of that spreadsheet database can edit anything and can enter new entries and whatever, and keep it up to date, and then can share the view with everyone else in one of the channels, and you can do like a gallery view, which is very nice, looks very good, and etc.
Yeah, Airtable works too. Any hybrid spreadsheeting, any hybrid spreadsheet software works. And we can go with normal spreadsheets as well. It's just which one's more preferable. I believe like a hybrid spreadsheet that has views is slightly more accessible, and it's much more easy to view data on there because we can style it up so it can act like a source of truth that people can normally visit and view. But we can use a normal spreadsheet as well. It's just a matter of preference.
All right. So shall we consolidate the information? Hello, Durgaras. I didn't see you there. Shall we consolidate the information first from the Gitbook that Nate mentioned, and then sort of build this database of text for sections and stuff? Or how would you suggest, or someone else have any other suggestion on how to proceed with this? We can choose the tool that we are using later, but
I do wonder if this makes any sense at all to go in the Consilience library, or are you guys going to create something entirely different? Because we already have, kind of a library that's being created.
So this is more for internal use, updating like the Discord, pin messages, and
okay.
the internal information about the TEC. Just Jason.
Yeah, and I think the question that you asked, it does make sense for us to complete an exercise where we have a representation of what we think the breadth of the most important pieces of information are. The spreadsheet's not complete, and we have a good feel for how many places do we have that specific problem of an overlap of more than 2 or 3 places where the information sits. I think that'll help us understand the scope of the problem, and maybe a conversation then about the right type of future tool probably could be even more informed, because we'll have some specific ideas about the types of problems that we're going to have, where right now we only have a couple examples and it's not complete enough to be sure that there isn't something else that we might uncover that would help us with choosing a process in the future. So that was my thought.
Yeah, I think there's kind of 3 things that are going on here. One is the tool, and one is the process, and the other is the role. Like making sure that for every single one of these working groups and for the community as a whole, like there's somebody who is actually charged with, has accountability for actually making sure that that's done. And I think all 3 of these are going to be important. And yeah.
Going out on a tangent, I'd also like to adjust one small thing, is that this exercise is also going to help us with improving our, the multilingual expansion we're thinking about, where the translations team work on different translations. So if we have like one source for all the text, it'll be really easy to feed that into something like Crowdin and have crowdsource the translations from people. That would be really helpful.
I will also point out that if we were doing on our website in WooCommerce, you could put a translator plugin straight up in there, and then you wouldn't have to task individuals with doing that work. So I don't, I mean, I know we have a bit of a different approach to that, but just might actually be a lot lighter weight to use some kind of architectural choice that would make it easier to do that kind of translation and sort of automatically be in hundreds of languages, without us having to do something, right? So that might increase our reach and of our translation efforts overall across many platforms.
Thank you, Tigres. I wrote down that note. Shall we, Jason? I think what we could do is for example, from the pin messages, the ones that are peculiar or belongs only to that channel, I can just manually update it and put that correction somewhere, so I can start storing that maybe in the spreadsheet of this spreadsheet that you share in a different sheet. So I can start doing that with the ones that are simple. They are only like a time change. Then they are not anything else. They are not like a description of a working group. And then we can start consolidating the rest of the information, maybe for next Monday. So we can have just, for example, the working group's description that it's on the Gitbook, which is supposedly the official one, and just gather that information in a place, consolidate it there, and then we can change the tool later on. But and then see what is the scope of the amount of time it takes and how often then we can do this process. My suggestion will be that this is something that we can have like an alarm set up, basically, so we can pass it on to a reminder to other stewards when time comes every 6 months, every 3 months. We can identify this and say like, hey, time has come to just check the channels, stewards update your channels and so on. But we can just come up with a script or something that could be fixed in this same document, so people can be aware, even if some of us are not here. Does that make sense to you?
It absolutely does, and I will definitely work with you to make sure that we have that update to share next week.
Sure. Then let's meet during this week, and we can work on this whenever you have fun with. We can see the timing later on. Yes, Matt.
One little thing. So for the pins, do we actually need to update them? One thing we could do is just unpin those messages and make new pin messages, and I think that would simplify things, because if someone who created the pin leaves the community, we can't edit those messages. So it'd be neat if we just keep the updation out of the way and just make new messages and pin them.
I agree. That's way better. Then, besides that, is there something else someone want to comment on this before we move on? Bai just left at the moment that I needed him the most. Okay, if no one else has any other comment besides this, we will meet Jason and then follow it up. I have 2 other things here on the agenda for today. One is the thing that I mentioned before regarding how we can coordinate better with the working groups, and how we can visualize tasks for other working groups. This is an open suggestion. Like, anyone else can suggest any other option. I suggest either on the stewards meeting or either on the community call. Just 1 minute, and everyone can just say, hey, I need this person, or I need this profile, I'm looking for someone who does this, or is there any task open on your working group that is open for contributors? That's the only 2 places I can think about how to come up with a solution for this. Gideon, what do you think about how we can coordinate better with other working groups?
So one of the things that I'm trying to experiment with for Sampo and also with the Writers Guild is this idea of like an interface position, a guide. So we're going to have a Sampo guide, and in a way, Jason is kind of playing that role in the Writers Guild as well, right? It's like the guide. We're still figuring out exactly what those roles are, or like what the responsibilities of that role are, but one of them I think could definitely be like a liaison between the working group and Communitas. I think that's a really good use of that role.
Does anyone else have any other suggestion of how we can improve our working group cross communication? 5, 4, 3.
I mean, I'll just jump in at least for this. I mean, the around this idea of being able to know what skills the working groups are looking for. I mean, if you remember, we used to have Katie compile a list of the kinds of skill sets each working group was working for and share it on the community call. It kind of worked, but I think where we ended up really getting stuck was not all of the working groups knew what they were looking for so much. You know, it was more like, well, anyone who wants to help. So I don't know that there's too many working groups that have like specific skill sets or criteria. We talked about having a kind of like looking for help, like job board, but more like a place where we can drop these kinds of requests for help from each working group. So rather than making it like a formal thing that we would try to force but wasn't really working, we could make it something more like, give its own channel, like working group help, like hashtag working group help. And when any working group needs something, they could just be like, hey, we're really looking for somebody who has this skill set. Anyone in the community, like something more like that, but have it be like, I like the idea of Communitas being that main interface, because when new people come in, Communitas finds out what they do. Like Communitas is like the group that knows the people that are coming in, how they want to help, what skills they have. So maybe it's sort of like we can create a channel create space, but then Communitas is sort of like the one that's sort of managing to making sure like they know what working groups are looking for, and then they can help people find.
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. Maybe it's not on them to provide what they need. It's us to be aware of things that are going on. There is an aspect that with the working groups update that gets posted on the forum, and the idea is that this post rarely gets any interaction with, because the information is placed in a way that it just looks like a generic post. So there should be a way where we can take that information that is being compiled and worked on every week and make it more dynamic. So that information becomes things to do, or that information becomes as a easy plugin for newcomers, rather than just like a summary of what you did this week. Because I feel that if you put what you did this week, you can get that from the community call, the YouTube video, or anything like that. Like, So I feel there should be. I don't see it clearly yet, but I think there should be a way that time that gets invested on creating the working group update can be translated into, hey, I have this information. I am from Communitas working group, and I know what's going on in every working group, and I can provide you a plugin to that working group, because I'm very. But also, I feel that this needs to be aware by the stewards too. Like the stewards should be, or the working coordination lead should be also aware that this liaison possibility exists, and like not wait until the stewards call to say I'm overwhelmed, or hey, I feel like I need help, or I need support. Like you can just reach the Communitas, and we will try to support you or find someone to support you. I don't know the mechanisms, I don't know the process to accomplish this, but I feel there is something there.
Yeah, and I think it's two ways, right? It's not just like, I mean, it's hard for a working group to know what they're looking for, right? Like, we just anyone who can come and contribute. So I feel like it's really this, like, it's a matchmaking service, right? It's like, oh, you're good at this thing. The Gravity group was just looking for that. It's sort of like finding, not just trying to say like we want, but also like helping guide people to the kinds of roles that would be really they'd be well suited for, the kinds of pieces of work they'd be well suited for in each of the working groups.
Before passing it to you, Cha, welcome, Chef Ran. This is the Communitas working group call. And you are more than welcome to stay and introduce yourself if you feel like.
Oh, okay.
Hello. You seem to have some issues with your mic. Sorry, we cannot hear you properly, so I will suggest whenever you feel ready to introduce yourself, just send me a message and I pass it to you. Go ahead, Sha.
Thanks. Sorry.
No worries.
So something interesting in that since I saw in R&DAO, they have like a talent database where when you interact with them, like they invite you to this like a database where you can fill a form with your like areas of expertise, your interests, where what kind of subjects do you wish to contribute in, and so I don't know if they actually do something with it, but this could be something cool, for the Communitas working group to have, and then try and matchmake like Tam suggested.
Can you share a link to what you mentioned on the Communitas text channel so everyone can see it, Sha?
For sure. Where should I send it? Where should I?
The Communitas text channel. I will tag you so you can see it.
Okay, yeah, I need to find it. Maybe I will send it. I will write in the channel afterwards. Yeah, I will find the link and send it to you.
Yeah, get in.
Let me just share. I'm going to share my screen. Just show what we're doing right now in Sampo, which is we basically just had like a live session where I asked people to just share their interests and expertise. And man, this was super useful. Like I uncovered all of these interesting things about people that I did not know, right? And we're definitely going to make use of this in Sampo, like these different skill sets and things like that. So I think that there's something like this that this is just a document, right? But I think there's something here, and it's actually helpful even just for thinking about like, oh, what are the roles and responsibilities that we actually need and are missing in Sampo right now?
Yeah, and I think something that is important here, it's what you mentioned, Gideon, which is we can run this a test with Sampo and the Reddit Guild to have these very basic open issues that are open to newcomers or to anyone who wants to take them, and we can run the test and see which other working groups may have. I think Gravity may have issues that are sort of entry level and open to anyone to take. I think there are some working groups that can do that, and our role will be to sort of surface these things and try them on and see which one works. Chef Fran, would you like to take a try and see if your mic works? Five, 4, 3, 2. Let me know, Chef Fran, if you find a solution to your mic. Right. I want to take the last 10 minutes of this session, if you are here, to check the thing about the roles and the areas of interest and see where we can find a time, and first of all see if this is doable. The things that we want to sort of accomplish with the new updates to the bot. I took the liberty, Gideon, to create an issue that I actually assigned to you, which is this. There are two issues. One is the ongoing poll on what information is more important to newcomers, but there is another one, which is the quiz. I think it was a quiz. Give me a moment that I find this. And the idea would be that we could on your guide and this channel that we have, remember the channel that has like the clickables. And if you scroll up, we have the Start Here channel, and there is your guide channel where it has the clickables. To have there either way the role selection, or either way the quiz or something, like have all that information there. But anyways, what I wanted to ask by it's how we can like when we can meet and how we can which of these things are possible and which are not possible, basically.
All right, so the roles is a feature that is on the roadmap for the onboarding part, so that should be doable. Rules. I'm unsure what do you mean by add checklist.
So this is the one that I wanted to add to your guide. Sorry, is the checklist. Does that make sense, Gideon? First.
Are you saying adding this to the bot rather than having it just be like a document?
I just on a clickable on the remember that we have your guide, so it has how to buy TC tokens and so on. It's just the same stuff, but just it will display the link or whatever to whatever we want to do this checklist option.
So it's just text data, or do we want like an actual checklist people can use?
Yeah, checklist will be amazing, but if it's not possible, then just the text.
We could have a checklist, but I think it would be more appropriate to keep that checklist inside the onboarding flow, in which like if you after finishing the survey or before finishing the survey, you're met with this checklist about what actions you need to do when you're joining the community. Maybe that would be an approach. We can have a checklist inside the guide as well, but that would take some time. Time that I do not have right now, but maybe after 8th June, I might be able to allocate some time towards that kind of feature.
Can I just ask one question about the checklist in the guide? Would the intention be that the state is static, so it retains the state of the checklist, or would you see the same checklist regardless?
So
go ahead.
So I was slightly unsure what Edu was pointing to, but my guess is that it would be a dynamic checklist. So there would be a button called something like checklist. People click on that button and they're met with with a number of steps, and all those steps have buttons like check marks where they can say that they've done this task. And once they've done the task, the message updates and states that they've done this task, like it shows a tick mark next to that. And this thing is stored somewhere, like the number of steps they've taken is stored. So the next time they click on the checklist button, the list state for them is stored. I hope that made sense.
Yeah, it did make sense. Is that what you had in mind?
Something along those lines.
I do think it's important for us to just get like a little spec. Just can be very simple, but just we need to write this down someplace, and just so that we can have something that we can sanity check and just go, oh wait, we can't do that because blah blah blah, right? Or oh wow, yeah, the order's not right, or I don't know, just something short, like a spec.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I also think the checklist is great, but we probably, before we build the functionality into the guide bot, I think we should just write out what the checklist would be. And we could keep that anywhere, in a pinned message even.
Yeah, it's very similar to what we built for the Hatchers tab. Like, remember that when we did the outreach for the Hatcher, we had this checklist like, hey, have you, before participating in the Hatch, did you complete this? Kind of thing.
Yeah, we kept that on Gitbook, right?
Yes, it is in Gitbook.
Yeah, I think the checklist is a great idea, but I think maybe we build, like we know what the spec is before we try to build it into the bot. Because I think we could use it in so many places. It would be a nice checklist to share.
Yeah. So the inspiration came from this link that I'm not getting correct. You were gonna say something, Gideon?
No, I think given the amount of stuff we have going, simple is really good. Like, have a vision for longer term where we want to go with this, and then keep it simple to begin with would be good.
Makes sense. Yes, bye.
There was a discussion a little while ago about the having a list of skills or talents, maybe. And I think we've had a discussion of this maybe a few weeks ago about maybe having an instance of the skill bot that Metagame uses inside the DC. So is that something that we do want? Like, should I go ahead and deploy it for the TC, or do we want to make our own solution for that? Like, is this something that we want inside a bot, or is this something we want on a form? Which way is more preferable? Because either way we can implement it right now.
I just want to say I put down in the channel the form. It's an Airtable form of Arendau for the skills set. If you want to check it out.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I didn't get your question.
So I was talking about the skills. Do we want to use a similar form for this? We can probably just copy this form inside your table and recreate it. Or do we want this to be a part of the survey, the onboarding survey flow that we have right now, where the bot asks questions, and this is one of the things that it allows you to do?
It could be a question. It could be actually there is an issue open to change the question. What is your level of Web3 knowledge? That it's a question that gets sent in the survey, and I suggested to change to what is your areas of interest or your skill set. So we could change that. It's just changing that question, and then whatever answer they provide, we just store it in the same way we store the information right now. Or we can build this. I mean, it's. I'm not an expert on this, so this is debatable, of course. We have 1 minute left. Someone else have something to say besides regarding this aspect of the skills stuff? 5, 4, 3.
Just one small thing to add.
Yeah, I had one more question, which was like, you remember that 2 weeks ago you mentioned about labs. If there was someone who could take the quiz bot, or if they build it, do you hear anything from them?
Not right now. I think Nick might be interested, but actually, we were seeing a lot of degrading activity inside the labs. Like there was like maybe 3 people coming, so we decided to take some time off and replan the whole lab structure and the labs call. Maybe this time doesn't work, so we're gonna go through that. By the way, I also had one little statement to pass that before we start implementing this, it would be really great if we can have like an idea of what kinds of skills TC wants and what are different working groups wants. That way, it's a lot better to have specific skills that we desire rather than having like a really long list.
I agree.
Yeah, I think just for all of these things, it would be just good to have little specs, in advance. We can just jam on, get the spec done first before we do any kind of work.
I agree. All right, we are on top of the hour, past 1 minute. So sorry for this. Was a very chaotic meeting. Apologize for that. So thanks so much everyone who joined today. And in the case of Chef Ran, if you need anything, send me a message on DMs. My DMs are open. Looking forward to see you. Thank you so much, OBS, also for sharing your screen and expressing your opinion visually. So have a nice day, everyone, and enjoy your Monday. Take care.
Thanks.
Thanks, Edu. Thanks, everyone.